Bajaj, and I serve as a co-founder of Global Learning Space Network that's dedicated to celebrating the progress of learning spaces and educational architecture. All thanks to CIVOM for organizing this session on the special occasion of National Science Day. And the theme for today's session is Inspiring Future Innovators. By the way, National Science Day is observed every year on 28th February to commemorate the discovery of the Raman effect by Indian physicist C.V. Raman in 1928. Since 1986, India has been celebrating this day to acknowledge scientific achievements and promote awareness about the role of science in daily life. And today, we are joined by a panel of three incredible people who will share their take on various topics. Let's make it quick and get started. On first, we have Yashad Singh, founder at STEMplify, and he has earned accolades for making STEM education accessible and engaging. Welcome to this session, Yashraj. Such an honor to have you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Akshay.
On second, we have Pradnya Patkar, curriculum developer and education enthusiast, who brings expertise in STEAM, design thinking, technology, innovation, and computational thinking in curriculum. It's such an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Abel. Thank you so much.
And on third, we have Yogi Patidar, director at CIVOM, an organization that plays a major role in fostering innovation in learning spaces. Yogi sir, welcome to this session.
Thank you, Akshay.
So let's get started with this panel discussion where we'll have three sections and we'll have a volley of questions coming to the guests and then we'll have the final Q&A. To all the audiences joining us live from different parts of the world, we request you to please leave your questions in the comment sections of all the platforms that you are watching this live. So let's get started with the first section that is based on building a robust STEM or STEAM ecosystem in India. So the first question comes to Pradnya Patkar. Pradnya, with your expertise in curriculum and STEAM, what are the key elements needed to build a truly robust and effective education ecosystem within Indian schools and educational institutions? And how can we move beyond just adding A for arts and genuinely integrate interdisciplinary approaches? Over to you.
Yes, that's a very interesting question, actually. So, when we talk about creating a robust ecosystem with STEM or STEAM education, we have to first think about what should be the final outcome of this ecosystem that we are aiming at. Then we can think about what can be the learning objectives. Now, to foster this, there can be multiple tools. There can be makerspace, there comes your curriculum, then your mentors, the communities and forums for a better student engagement, and the access for the global platforms and opportunity. The first and most important part is to move from rote memorization towards the project based and inquiry driven learning. For this, the best tool can be the state of art STEM lab makerspaces, which will provide a free environment for the students to tinker and experiment. Next thing is our curriculum. So we can integrate design thinking and problem solving as a pedagogy into the curriculum itself. So we can teach students about critical thinking, how to foster creativity, how to foster collaboration alongside the technical skills. Then there is mentor training and upskilling. The curriculum that we will be preparing, it will be delivered by our mentors. So upskilling of the mentors is very important. So the mentors have to be the facilitators rather than just the teachers. We don't have to teach the students the concept, but rather than help them arrive at those particular instances. We need to connect to the industry and the real world. Like we can partner with different tech companies or universities or innovators to bring in the industry exposure, which is very, very important. The next thing is accessibility and inclusivity. So I want the STEM education to reach to each and every area of the Indian society, right from the rural to undeserved communities as well. So we can always think of promoting the inclusivity and accessibility. Now they have done a lot of things in the maker space. They have learned about the curriculum and STEM and everything. But where do they showcase this? So it's always good to have the competitions and showcase of the national and international levels. Next thing what we can do is we can have certain communities in which the parents are engaged, the students are engaged, and with these communities, the students can come up with different kind of projects that they can take up and then display this or showcase them to all the stakeholders. This can integrate or foster leadership qualities among the students as well. So according to me, this is how we can include the STEM or STEAM education into the Indian education system in a very robust manner. Now the question was about having art integrated. So there's always been a question about STEM education or STEAM education, how the art is going to be integrated into it. So I think design thinking is the very best way to have art section integrated into the STEM education. Let us take an example. We throw a redesign challenge. In a redesign challenge, let's say a very simple product that students use in their day-to-day life. Let's take an example of a toothbrush. Help student to think what are the problems associated with the current design of the toothbrush. How can they make it better? And once they think about it, give them some art and craft material. Let them do redesigning. Come up with different designs. So students can come up with multiple ideas. So here art and craft is becoming a tool for the innovation, right? These ideas maybe tomorrow they go and become some kind of innovation. We don't know, some big companies they take up these ideas and we might actually have the product. So this is the best way according to me to have art integrated into the STEM. Thank you.
That was a beautiful answer. Reminded me of how the character from Three Idiots used to show that he's teaching kids and they're also innovating in Ladakh. So we
Yes.
have that school in Riel also. And
Yes.
thank you for sharing your point on industry academia collaboration and incorporating design thinking in the curriculum. That was a commendable answer. And now coming up to Yogi sir. Yogi sir, we have a question for you. As a director of CIVOM, what role do you see organizations like CIVOM playing in strengthening the STEM or STEAM ecosystem in India? And how can industry and educational institutions collaborate more effectively to achieve this?
Thanks, Akshay, for the question. I think before starting, I would like to, wish everyone National Science Day, to all the viewers. And science, scientific minds is not just, I would say, very controlled to the context of the subjects. It's basically mindset which we really need to develop around. Okay, and that mindset need to start at, from a CIVOM's perspective, I would say, in the classroom. Why do we have separate labs? I really question this first thing. Why our classroom should not be considered as lab itself? Okay, why do I need to wait for a period in my class to get access to these labs? Okay, why cannot I have a classroom which is like a studio? Okay, so if like Pradnya was mentioning about bringing design thinking or project-based learning, so getting projects from real life world inside the classroom. So think of it, I'm mapping a subject or a curriculum, okay, and I want to test it right now. Can I not do it in my classroom? Should I wait for the period? By the time my period would come, my idea would have lost. Okay, so how do we really make our classroom environment as a lab environments where it becomes accessible right in there only. Okay, research for that matter. So whenever we talk about scientific exploration, research is a very key aspect of it. Okay, so do I need to get for my technology or library books in the period or in its separate sections? Can we not make them in a part of our classroom itself? So think about, if you want a facilitation based model or student centered learning, we need to create a studio approach rather than a classroom approach. So idea should be that my classroom is a live lab where I'm experimenting anything which we wanted to do from the real world. Okay. Second context which I would like to bring here is bringing industry experts into the classrooms. In Indian context, it has not been done deeply. Entrepreneurs, scientists, curriculum designers for that matter, or people like Yashraj who's doing some great work. So if they are being brought into the classrooms, they would widen up a lot of ideas. So the more industry experts come inside the classrooms, in India, vendors are being considered as suppliers. We never take them as a change makers, because these are the guys who's working every day in and day out, and doing some changes and innovations. Okay, so school need to understand, institute need to understand that they are widely in the market, understanding future. So that should be invited in the classrooms to show what they can bring around. Till the point we see it, it will never bridge up a gap. Okay, so it is not only supply; it is more to the change which they are bringing around. So understanding that and connecting to those dots. Third thing I would say, bringing projects from communities. Okay, our classroom curriculum should be made in such a way that if we can see the challenges in our community, take them as a project. Instead of teacher giving a project to student, let them observe and see a project, and then try to solve that project in the classroom with all that STEM and STEAM approaches. Because the moment they would think around it, it will give them a critical thinking. One, okay, will help them understanding which tools to be used, how that can be helped around. So that's where facilitation model would really work for kids in the classroom. Bringing those projects from classrooms, real lives, rather than teacher giving the project, because it is teacher's mindset. Then they're going to execute. So, seeing a problem is also very important. How to observe the problems. Okay, so that is where we're going to have this context done. And thinking about arts, I always say, in India we don't see humanities as a powerful tool. Okay, humanities, if you have lower numbers, take arts. If you have higher numbers, take science. We never see it as an humanities as a subject. So humanities is around the humans. The problems we are solving around the human or human life. Okay, so till the point you don't get this context of how human can be helped around through this science technology, we cannot build this, bridge this gap. So we have to have this human centricity. India's innovation index is lower just because we cannot understand the context of it. We are very good with the content, but we don't understand the context of it. A lot of engineers know how to do it, but for whom to do it is where we are missing around. So you have to build this context through the humanities in the classrooms. If we can have this, we can build a strong innovation, mindset in country like India. That would be my take.
Yogi sir, thank you for sharing how design thinking and arts can be incorporated. And the studio concept that you shared was quite commendable. And now let's move on to the next question for Yashaji. So, Yashraj, through Stemplify, you are directly working to make STEM accessible. From your ground level perspective, what are the most critical gaps in the current STEM ecosystem that hinder accessibility and inclusivity? And what systemic changes are needed to address these?
All right, thanks Akshi, for your question. First of all, I just want to thank CIVOM also to give the platform an opportunity to have this discussion. Starting with, as already Akshay has mentioned, my name is Yash Raj, founder of Stemplify, and the very first question is the challenges which you have asked, what challenges we are facing. So I'll start with the same. So challenges is something, the acceptance of that there is a change which is needed. So we are working majorly with schools. So that is our audience. We work B2B majorly. The clients are there across India, and I have a like I can have a demographic different acceptation, different acceptations at different locations. There are places where change is very much accepted. There are places where they are already changing the way we want to teach and incorporating new things in the school. So on a challenge front, since the very first thing which happened in 2020 is the national education policy, which is making sure that by 2025, like this year, you need to implement. And one of the major section of NEP is that you need to bring project-based learning. You need to make sure students should upgrade their skills, and these things can be possible by building, by creating new curriculum, by creating new collaboration. As Pranay already mentioned, that we need to have companies coming up creating new kind of programs, but not at a college level only. We need to go deep down. We need to ensure that it is we are starting as soon as possible. The biggest challenge, as I mentioned, is only the accepting that yes, world is changing fastly and we need to change the way. So I think there is a limited access to quality STEM education. Schools are saying we are doing it. There is, so this terminology is new to maybe for many of us, like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, but eventually people are saying that we are already following it. And the most unfortunate part is that the only one thing which we are able to cater is robotics. So if you go in any school, what extra they are doing, they will say one word robotics, and that is the unfortunate part. STEM is not robotics; it is just one part of it. So with this Templify, what we started with, first of all, educating all the people around that we are trying to build a program or a curriculum or something which is very futuristic. And the best part is student are learning 360, like they are learning science, they are learning maths. So as Yogi sir also mentioned that we need to make our classroom studios. What we are trying to here say is that all right, whatever you have learned in class, whatever you are doing in science, engineering, math, whatever you are doing in class, how to implement it, this is what we really want to tell them with our programs. The second most problematic thing is that we need to reform the curriculum. This is the high time. It cannot be that we go again. For example, in colleges also, why students are not getting, why industry or why companies are not getting the right kind of, I'll say, candidates, because we are still giving them the curriculum which is way back, maybe 40, 50 years old, I can say that. So this is something we need to not change at the college level. The curriculum need to be refined starting from grade, maybe I'll say 1, 2, or 5. As soon as it is more important that students should know about what is happening around, what is happening in their country, other and nearby. Also, the major challenge is we don't get quality trainers. So this is something is also a challenge. So infrastructure as a whole, I can say yes, there are labs which we are creating, but on the infrastructure side, also on the manpower infrastructure, I'll say we need to have good quality trainers, and this is again one of the challenges as a company we are facing. It is not something I'll say schools are facing or not, but yes, I can see, and we are trying to solve that. We want to have more certification programs. We are trying to build a kind of a program where anyone, either a teacher or someone who is doing BTech, any kind of a student is really want to make sure to add some kind of value which he can or she can impart to students. We are up for it, and we are trying to do small and steady. But yes, it is making impact. And but of course, digital infrastructure, it is there in our country now, but it is not accessible to everyone. So these are few challenges I'll try to, like, this is something which I think we need to reform. We need to come up with new plans, and we need to trust people like us. So I'll say schools, like, you need to have someone who is expert in this. You are already doing too much. You're already giving them a quality education, like physics, math, science, Hindi, English, everything is important, because that is building their understanding. That is something which has been researched and it is done. Okay, but what else? How to build their skills, how to ensure that they are ready once they are out of their school or out of their college. It cannot be, and it will not go on that once I am out of my college, I'll do a 6-month course, or I'll be doing some kind of a different work, and then I'm fit for for any kind of job. It needs to be done right from grade one. The mindset needs to be changed, as Yuki sir has told. It is not only mindset of the students, it is the mindset of school and all the educators like us, to ensure that this kind of offering can be done. So these are like 2 points which you asked, but just to have uh, add one or two more things. There is a lack of real world STEM application and relevance. There is nothing which is there which we can say that they can connect the dots with us. Like, for example, we have started the program which is the world biggest STEM competition. It is called STEM racing now, previously known as Formula One in schools. It is actually they are learning. So I'll quote an example. Like, for Formula One, there is one racer. We know him or her, but like that is what we see in the car. But there is a team of almost 400 to 500 people who are there supporting that and ensuring that that person can race. What are those 400 and 500 roles? What do they do? How can we go and how can we get to know what exactly? How can we be one of the maybe a sponsor, or how can we find the best engineer, designers? So these courses and these knowledge can only be given once we have that kind of a training program in schools. So we do for those 400, 500 people, so that they understand what opportunities do we have, and that can open doors, and that can give them the idea. Okay, I like to be a very good designer. But when they are in this kind of program and they understand, oh, this is not something I really want to do, maybe this is another thing I should try. So these things can only be done once we give them challenges, once we give them real problems, find a real solution. And I'm pretty sure these things will help, along with industry collaboration that is much needed. Again, Formula One come up with strongly creating a wonderful program, changing lives. So this is everyone need to think of. Maybe in drones we are there, robotics, anyone who is the market leader, they should understand, should bring such program, and should be there working with schools.
Great take on real-time learning and real-time problem solving. Yogi, so do you wish to share anything, any insight on this?
No, I feel this is really those kind of challenges which is needed. Like I was mentioning, we should not have coaching classes at all. Instead of this time in coaching classes, we should have industry internships. Post 12, go for industry internship, and then figure out you really wanted to be that engineer. Okay, because after coaching you will become the same engineer, and you may not be able to figure out ki ground kya hota hai, phase kya hota hai. That there's no point of being that kind of electrical engineer. You'll never fit into industry, and then you'll struggling with your passion. So my idea is post 12, close coaching, go to internship. If you go to real world, you will get to see that I really want to be engineer or designer, because people don't know the difference between an engineer and designer. The mindset difference would come when you actually have your hands done, got into this. So we have to get dirty into the system, and then understand what is that for me, and then take a call, rather than having a higher marks, being an IITian and not able to get a job. Is no good job.
Great, great. That calls for the close of the first section. Now let's move on to the second section of this session. Now, the section coming up has the theme of driving innovation and cultivating future skills. And the first question comes up to Pradnya Patkar. Pradnya, design thinking and computational thinking are vital for innovation. How can educators effectively weave these methodologies into science curriculum in a practical and engaging way, and also ensure that they become integral to the learning process rather than just add on subjects?
Yes. So I am a strong believer that design thinking, computational thinking are the approaches to solving the problem. That is true. But they need to be there, like they need to be also treated as a pedagogies for the curriculum. Right. So when we talk about design thinking, so design thinking is the way in which a particular student or anyone can approach science, like maybe inventor or innovator. So these are different approaches. But when you talk about the computational thinking will give you more precise and logical steps, just like someone who is a coder. So if these two skills are brought together, the scientific problem solvers, so students can turn into these. Not just students, but they become the scientific problem solvers and not just the learners. So to get this into the science, let's say students are learning a chapter on maybe water pollution in their school. So let them just go out, let them observe certain areas, let them find the problems, let them come up with like, okay, this particular area has got so many problems. Then let them think, okay, which is the particular problem that we can solve. Let them come up with multiple ideas. And obviously the tool to create those ideas into the actual prototypes can be our maker spaces. So design thinking must be like a mindset for the students, not just a subject. It should be a pedagogy how a particular curriculum is being taught into the schools. So we have this amazing program called as Nurturing Innovators, in which the students come up with the problems which they observe in their surrounding, and then once they come up with the problem, we take them through the process of design thinking first, so that they ideate, come up with the final idea that okay, this can be the solution for my problem. Now we have the idea, but idea is something that is just in our mind, right? How to bring it into a physical existence, or how to like convert it into the actual solution. That is where the upskilling or skill building of the students come. That is where we need different technological tools. Maybe help them create a very simple basic prototype first, then maybe add technologies and then create the actual prototype and then run it into the real world scenario to actually check whether it's working or not. Now, if you want to formulate a particular prototype or if there is coding involved, then for that we have computational thinking that will give us the precise solution or precise steps for the solution. So I think when we are teaching science to the students into the classrooms, maybe you help students to understand that okay, these are the things that are actually happening into the real world. These are not just the textbook problems, right? When you talk about air pollution, water pollution, these are not just a textbook problem. These are all happening all around the world. Even we have certain sustainable development goals. So if we see the syllabus of science or environmental study, these sustainable development goals can be observed at the very wide scale. Just that students have to understand this, or there must be some kind of realization that these are not just the textbook problems. These are actually happening out there. And let the student actually go into the physical world and then come up with the solutions. I think that is how we can integrate design thinking and computational thinking into the science curriculum.
Thank you. Thank you for your take. And the next question is coming up to Yashraj Singh. Yashraj, Templify is focused on future skills. So, beyond technical knowledge, what are the crucial soft skills or competencies that STEM education should prioritize to truly foster innovation and prepare students for future careers?
Oh, it is a quite interesting and very good question. See, the only thing what we are focused right now is when we do some kind of a like STEM programs or technical program, it is purely around technology. And as you mentioned, we need to have some personality development skills also. So to quote few, I'll say, like, we know critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, innovation. These are standard things which we say every then and now, that these two things we do should be there. But in STEM, at Stemplify, we focus on few major skills which are needed to ensure that we are doing fine. The very first and foremost is collaboration and teamwork. So this is something we very much focus on, that our all programs are on basically on a team format, because collaboration is the most important thing. It is the thing which will make sure that students are able to understand. They should have a better understanding with their peers, with the people around them, and finally they can conclude and make an answer and create a solution. So that is very much needed. This is the very first focus area at Stemplify. Adaptability and flexibility. See, we need to be adaptable, we need to be flexible enough. It cannot be that if we are going, if you want that this is the time frame, we need to ensure that there should be a solution to a problem. It is not possible. Students need to be adaptable to find out in different ways, or to have new team members. So this is another new area. It should be there, it should be taught in between, that they should be flexible enough for finding out the various answers and solutions. Resilience, I'll say, most important right now. Why? Because there are problems which might not have solutions right now, but they need to understand there will be something which will come. So they need to find out, they need to best suited solution for now, and keep on working and find out what best they can do in going forward. Resilience is one thing, and the last and foremost, we say that interdisciplinary thinking is something which is very much needed. It is a kind of a skill. It is not something we'll say it is a part of a curriculum we should do like this. It is a skill to identify of a point, like a use case of one industry, how we can use it in another industry, or a use case at one problem, how can we use it in another problem, and find out quality solutions. So these are few things which I believe are, should be there, should be included, and should be part of all the training sessions we do. And we should tell students, keep on telling them each and every time, like, it is not about communications, it is not about only how you are breaking a problem and finding a solution. It is, if you are breaking a problem, how you are dealing with your team, how you are getting a solution with your team, how flexible you are to ensure that there might be new solutions, how flexible you are to do different experiment. Do you know, are you resilient enough that yes, we will come back with a solution? So these are few things which should be there in each and every session, rather than, I'll not say in a program, every session, so that students get that in their, like, in DNA, and they should perform accordingly.
Yes, that was quite a broader perspective shared by Yashaji. Thank you so much for that perspective. And now moving on to the final question of this session for Yogi Patidar. Yogi sir, CIVOM works to promote innovation, and from an organizational perspective, what are some effective strategies or initiatives that can be implemented to cultivate a stronger culture of innovation within educational settings and beyond that must reach wider communities?
Thanks, Akshay. I would start, by sharing the dilemma of today's time, that we are teaching 21st century students by 20th century teachers in 19th century classrooms. Okay, this is where we are. We couldn't get away from that idea of mass education. Okay, in the intelligence age, and we are approaching meta intelligence age soon. Okay, so realization of that change is very, very, very critical right now, which is what educators and education institutes need to realize and put into their vision. Because if they don't build that vision, the whole decision making would not flow till the end of it. Okay, so we are still seeing it as a product development process rather than a human development process. Okay, so education institutes are human development organizations, not a product development organizations. They are not factories. They cannot talk about efficiency. They have to talk about effectiveness. Okay, so if we need to talk about effectiveness, the whole idea starts at the change mindset. That whole idea starts at building the right vision. Okay, they have to have a mindset of failing. Okay, we talk about STEM maker spaces. We'll keep doing new ideations, failing with the prototypes. Same has to be in the organization. We have to open to making mistakes. No one knows the right formula. Okay, how we can establish organization which has this innovation culture. So it starts as allowing making mistakes, receiving that, learning from this, and building around. Okay, so that those are these few contextual thinking which we really, really need to build around us. Okay, when you do this or on an organizational level, when you build a culture, it starts with that vision. Then you put that into the right values which you wanted to build. Okay, So like Yashraj was mentioning about creativity. Okay, human brains are very shallow. If you approach them, okay, we cannot write 10 brands of soap or bathing soap right now, because we can just have five six which is top of the mind. Okay, so how do we put our brain into function that we can get deeper context out of it? Okay, so I ask a lot of people that if you want to start a garment business, what will you do? And most of them come with the ready-made garments, daily wears. But if we really put our brain into 10-degree rotation, is what I call it. Okay, from textiles, so think of performance-based textile or medical textile, technical textile, safety textile. You'll have a lot of great ideas coming around, and if you see, there is no competition also. So point is, how do you use your brain to get this deeper context into the whole process? So very interdisciplinary approaches can help you connect those dissections. I always say, think about the skills an Apple's camera designer would have, or what kind of passion he would have. Okay, so if we know this context, we can build our mindset right. So building culture is starts at that change mindset, having that vision, taking decisions, putting those values in right system, and having those ethos. That can be actually help us build the system.
Perfect, perfect. So that calls for the close of this session, and we had quite an interesting collection of takes from all the guest panelists. Now, moving on to the final section of today's session, that is based on leveraging technology and envisioning the future. So, the first question again comes up to Pradnya Patkar. Pradnya, with the rapid advancement of technology, what are some of the most promising and impactful ways you see technology being used to transform science education for the better while still preserving essential hands on learning?
Yes. So, as we can see, the technology is changing the way that we learn science. It is making it more exciting, it is making it more interactive, it is connecting more to the real world. So, the best way to use technology is by combining it with hands on activities so that student gets to build, they get to experiment, they get to create. But when we are talking about integrating technology, we have to think of it in a mindful way. Integrating technology just for the sake of technology integration is not going to be the solution. It will not solve anything. So we have to think about some framework that helps us in the mindful integration of technology. So before going to these tools, I would like to talk about a framework that helps you to mindfully integrate technology into the science or any curriculum. So we have to think about substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. So what is substitution? So substitution is where technology can replace the traditional tool, but without changing the task. Let's say, for example, for students who are learning about the electricity, current, voltage, resistance, it is very difficult for them to imagine these things. We cannot see the current, we cannot see the voltage, we can feel it whenever if we get some kind of electrical shock, we can just feel it. But it is very difficult for students to visualize these things. So rather than reading it in the textbook, what if they watch certain videos? Or what if they go on certain simulation platforms and then they understand, the flow of electrons, certain concepts related to electricity. So that is one way the technology can be integrated in a meaningful manner, right? Then comes the augmentation. So augmentation where the technology can enhance the task or it can add some kind of value. So let's take the same example. What if students use certain platforms like Tinkercad, for example, where they virtually build the circuits, see what are the outcomes, and then maybe later try it out in the physical environment, right? Similarly, there is modification where you can use certain technologies which significantly will redesign your task. Then there is redefinition, in which your technology creates entirely new learning experiences. So we have to think where this fits into our idea of integrating technology into the science curriculum. Now, once we are sure with this, then we have multiple technology tools that we can use. Augmented and virtual reality is very important, very exciting thing that is happening right now. For example, you have to think of, suppose, what will be the environment on Mars. You can use the AR VR tools to understand that, or certain even phenomena like volcano eruption or earthquakes. It is very difficult for students to understand it sitting in their classroom, or certain space or galaxies or stars. So here the augmented reality and virtual reality can be integrated. So but before thinking about what kind of technology you want, you have to always think how to use it mindfully. Mindful integration of technology is something that is very important. We have a lot of technological access right now. The way technology is advancing, we have robotics tools, we have maker spaces, we have 3D design, we have 3D printing, we have AI that is booming right now. But where to use it, how to use it, how to integrate it mindfully, I think that is what we have to think before thinking about all these technologies. Yes.
Actually, quite an interesting take on how all these technologies can be merged with the curriculum and education, and great take on how AR, VR, and MR how they have to stand the test of times to get implemented. Great take. And the final question is a common question coming up to Yogi sir and Yashraj sir. So, looking ahead to the next decade, what is your vision for the future of STEM or STEAM education and innovation in India? And what are the most important steps that need to be taken collectively by educators, organizations, and policymakers to realize this vision and empower India's future innovators? Over to you.
You want to take it first?
No, you go on.
All right, thanks. So, again, for as a, my perspective, it is not something we need to do some drastic changes. We need to understand like what exactly it's a need of our, like 10 years down the line or 15, as sir mentioned, we are teaching 21st century skills through 20th century teachers. So the gap needs to be aligned, should be like something that we need to understand, that what exactly 10 years 15 years down the line is needed for the kids who are there in right grade 1 or grade 2 right now, what will be their the need when they are like. So this is something we need to work as educators. Now for that, I personally think there are 3 4 things which we can do. First, we need to have an infrastructure, which is we need to strengthen the infrastructure. And it is not that with only few schools will do that and we see a change. No, it will be like for selective few. With strengthening infrastructure, we need to give access also. We need to be working with social causes like NGOs and all, who can use those infra, maybe not during school hours, after school hours. So like those kind of models we need to create, which will help major part of our students who are there going in schools can access the strength the better infrastructure for such projects and upgrade their skills. Second, we say STEM, STEAM, stream. See, these are all same thing. The point is, we say we add arts or we add research. Nothing is possible without arts and research. Every project you just pick up, we are already doing it. So it isn't the simple abbreviation which we are creating and confusing ourselves. But what I think, promoting research and innovation ecosystem is what is need of art. So we rather say it's STEM, since it always need a research element to it. So we do anything research is something, because see, it is very unfortunate that we don't give students enough time to do a research, come out with a solution. Maybe it is right or wrong. We only give them selective questions. Those are selective answers. It should be broader perspective. There should be something which they come up with 10 new answers, and maybe we can discuss and can get a very new 11th answer. So that is what should be done. And then emerging technologies at the forefront. This is what we need to ensure, that students are given opportunities. See, as educators, we can only give opportunities and platform. It is up to the student where they want to go. So, but those opportunities should be provided. So, student studying in Delhi or Mumbai or Bangalore versus student studying in our tier 2 or tier 3 city, there is a huge gap. In that huge gap, also we are saying that students, because in Delhi and metro cities they have all the kind of new programs, uh, they still miss the best of the best. We still are not giving them the emerging technologies to understand, like there is a gap between current education system. There is a gap still that the top-notch schools are not able to even provide what is needed 15 20 years down the line. So we need to ensure that emerging technologies like drone has picked up. We are working, so many companies are now coming up and working on the drones. It is not the end, it is just a starting of something which is quite huge. And the last and foremost, as I mentioned in the last answer also, collaborative and experiential learning is what is need of our. We need to be having such programs where students collaborate. They learn and they do some experiments which is needed. They learn through those experiments, and collectively they come up to a solution. This is what I believe we should take care. And maybe 10, 15 years down the line, we will see these things happening. Already there are many people, many schools, many educators, many leaders, many forums are promoting and pushing this. And I'm hopeful, and maybe I just wish that this thing should get integrated as soon as possible.
Thank you, Yashaji, for sharing your take. That was quite an applause-worthy answer. And moving on to Yogi sir. Yogi sir, what's your take on the same question when it comes to the context of India? Please, sir.
See, in context of India, what Yashaj mentioned about accessibility and building infrastructures, that's very very relevant point, because the way I was mentioning in the last phase, it also that we are still not realizing that this infrastructure is not made for this idea of product development. It is for human development, and we really need to understand. Uh, we had to do that due job done for building this out. So that's one take. Okay. Second is we're talking about STEAM, but how many times do we really think about science of human learning? How human really learns. There's a lot of experimentation done in India, West, a lot of that. That how human really learns. Can we build that idea of that? How can I learn? Okay. So if someone knows how to learn, then a lot of battles can be won easily. So how do we use this cognitive power of human thinking in the whole mindset? So the moment you see about human learning, everything which we have is irrelevant. Okay. So you cannot. We learn at our home. We learn in our living spaces. Why we are pushed to sit on a desk in a classroom. Okay. I can be physically available, mentally may not be. So think around is how humans really think about it. We are emotional based learners. Our amygdala works differently. How that can be incorporated into our curriculums. Okay, we are hands-on learner. We learn by experiencing or doing things. How we build those kind of spaces, infrastructure in the system. So we really need to see. I would say we need to build a curriculum which is for industry 4.0. There's one we need to really build around once we do this infrastructure program. So like we say, the magic source is between people, program, and places. All three has to come together to create the magic of learning for humans. Okay, so this all three has to strongly align. Another thing is culture of research. Indian universities still lack the research culture. You go to universities and see how many industry relationships they are doing, or how many industry researches they are doing. Versus if you go to a university in West, okay, maybe a brewery company would be doing a research in University of Chicago. Okay, so how many of industry connections are being built to the universities? Because India need to have this connection between industry and researchers to the universities. Once we build it out, it will give that innovation mindset, and that has to come down to schools also. Similarly, like I was mentioning, having jobs for school internships, getting you a very strong industry relationship, having experience of immersive learning, rather than just being a stepped learning. Human never thinks linear. हम एक thought सोच रहे होंगे, it will go somewhere else. Okay, so we are not linear thinker, we are vector thinkers. So how do we create this immersive learning environment for the humans? That is what we really need to build around. Okay, the last thing I would say, having technology for teachers rather than too much for kids. Think about, if I can observe my kid, okay, and see he's learning or not right now with the method I'm teaching. Okay, I can have a corrective action right away rather than having a preventive action after a month's examination. Okay, so whole what we are doing is it's a preventive medicines or preventive cures rather than having a corrective cures. So if I can change my teaching from a blackboard or whiteboard to a, let's say, immersive, or like Pradnya was mentioning about substitution or augmented. Okay, if I can give it, so teacher has to have that understanding of observation using more technology, because kids would anyways going to use it. But if teachers would understand and have it for their observation, understanding how they can change their path of teaching or pedagogy, that would really help us. So having a lot of technology for teachers also, because we always felt that because they are क्या बोले ना, They're from the digital alien system. Okay, they cannot have that kind of technology access or understanding of it. But the moment we'll give it them for students' usage, it will help build that kind of culture. So, that would be my take. If we can have this, I always say, innovation must be a habit. It's not an occasional event. It has to go inside the system. Because if we can make it a habit, it will make us think that way. Rather than, just having for one period, one classroom, one subject, science, arts. If you distinguish between this, it will never come down. It has to be a kind of habit. It has to have a mindset, which is what we really need to build in a country like India.
That was a great quote that innovation must become a habit, not just subject to an occasion.
Yes.
Great, great take, Yogi sir. And that calls for the close of the session three. And now the floor is open for the questions. So we have a question coming up from Radhika for Pradnyaji. What are some simple experiments or activities that can make a classroom feel like a lab?
Yes. So rather than, I would say, making classroom feel like a lab or giving it a name of a lab, as Yogi sir said, why don't we make the classroom into the lab itself, or why don't we make the classroom into the maker space rather than lab? I would like to say maker space, where you are very free to tinker around the material, or mistakes are okay. You can learn, you can unlearn, relearn, and some of the experiments, maybe let's take simple example of physics. You can have students create a roller coaster. You throw a roller coaster creating challenge. Okay. So the criteria is the marble has to go through the roller coaster and reach at the end. Whoever takes the longest time is the winner. This can be one of the things that you can do in your makerspace, where I just don't think of it like specifically like chemistry or physics or this kind of thing. It has to be integrated. Maybe here the student can learn physics concept, student can have the art integrated into it, get his hands into the construction, understand certain designing aspect to make it more holistic, right? So this is one of the example. Ask the students to build catapult, understand about projectile motion. So it's not just understanding the theoretical concept, but students are building it. They're actually looking at what kind of angle it needs to be there to get a proper projectile, and they learn all these amazing skills. You can have these things into your classroom itself. You don't have to make it into the lab or call it a lab as such. Call it a maker space. It gives a kind of more holistic approach to the entire concept. That is what I feel.
Beautiful, beautiful answer. And now, before I ask you for the final take of yours, I have a theme and then you can answer your final take. India has had dearth of resources in the past, but then too we saw many of our brilliant scientists rising up and changing the country's position, be it in the nuclear program or be it in the other programs. So we have seen Dr. C.V. Raman, we have even seen Homi Bhabha, or let's say our Vikram Sarabhai, and even APJ Abdul Kalam. They of course came from humble backgrounds when it came to the availability of resources. So today's theme is like inspiring future innovators. So what would be your final take on this National Science Day to all these innovators who will be rising from all the nooks and corners of our country? First, let's hear it from Yashraj. You are on mute. Could you please unmute?
I just want to, on the concluding side, as you mentioned, we can always look around what exactly is the need of our, as you mentioned. So it is not only what is happening, what is needed now, but we need to align ourselves what is needed 10 years down the line. And as you mentioned, there will be different people, different innovators and different scientists coming from different part of the it will they will come, they will be there. Nobody will stop them. The only thing is that we can increase the number, or we can give them more possible and best, I'll say, infra, so that they should not wait 5-10 years for something which they can do in very first or second years. We can bridge, we can basically reduce the timing of their maybe reaching to the best level in their career. And these all things can only happen once we provide infra, once we have teachers who are there providing best curriculum in the best way possible, in the best environment. And also collectively, it is not a one person job. It is not only teachers who will do that. It is not only, maybe you'll say, government is only should do some kind of policies and should make changes. And or it will say that maybe companies like us and who can bring change. No, it is collective. It is something which we all need to work together, and maybe that is why we would use collaboration, and that is where we also focus very much that this is the need of our. This is what we need to do, and it is not one team who will make a rocket and will ensure that it is going to Mars or going. It is a team, so let's work as a team and let's see where best all we can put effort and provide best possible solutions to our kids.
Thank you. Over to Yogi, sir.
Uh, See, we really need to understand. Again, I would come to the human approach. Every individual comes within a beautiful, his uniqueness. Every brain is very, very unique. If you think of APJ Kalam pushed to singing, okay, or Lata Mangeshkar for cricket, they could not have been great the world they've been. Okay, so we really need to understand what a kid is for, what is his passion, what is his gift. Early education has to identify that what this kid's unique talent or unique approach is to. If we can help this in early ages, in formative times or foundational times, in the formative years we can shape this out with what kind of infrastructures, what kind of explorations we can give to them. Okay, then comes out to be supporting by the industry takes. Okay, so if we can have these small things, it takes a teacher just to be guru with a simple idea that he start thinking about his kids rather than about thinking of himself. तो एक शिक्षक गुरु तब बन जाता है जब वो बच्चों के बारे में सोचने लग जाता है. So the moment he started thinking about their own gifts, okay, and supporting and nourishing it, and letting them fly to a bigger path, it will be very, very easy. We just need to work around that human side of it. Because if I wanted to be a scientist, or if I have the scientific orientation, if it can be nourished, it can be cherished. So this is what we really need to look into. So till the point we don't get on this unique brain or identification, it will be tough. We will keep pushing someone for they are not interested in.
Okay. Now over to Pradnya ji, your take.
Yes. So, obviously, we celebrate Science Day for commemorating the discovery of great Dr. C.V. Raman. But what I feel is Science Day can be more about, celebrating the curiosity. The curiosity that fuels learning, that fuels innovation. So, every child is curious. I have a 2-year-old kid and I know how curious she is. She wants to know everything. So every child is curious. So it becomes a responsibility of a mentor or the teacher or guru, as Yogi sir said, to fuel that curiosity, to continuously keep it burning. That curiosity should never die. So for me, science is not just about big inventions. Okay, it's about solving the real problem. It's about helping the students to learn, to unlearn, relearn. They need to have a sense that okay, experimenting without the fear of failure, there will be no judgment. The mistakes will be celebrated, and the success both equally. It is also more important to think about it in a creative way. And this creative thinking can only be fueled with proper mentoring, but proper facilitation, which the teacher or the mentor or facilitator will play a major, huge role. Unless and until there is curiosity, unless and until there is creativity, the students will always learn, the students will always excel. That is what I feel. So I think on this Science Day, my take will be like, I hope really to keep on inspiring curiosity with the work that we do, build the love of students for innovation, and maybe work together to make India a global leader in science and technology.
Great. I would add here, I don't know how many of us, heard the YouTube podcast from Dr. Ken Robinson called School Skills Creativity. Okay, so our whole school system is designed to kill the creativity. There have been experimentations done. A kid with 5 years level of curiosity and a kid which is after 12th in his curiosity levels are been dulled down. So our system has been reversed it. So instead of making education's goal for occupation, it is for self elevation. If we can elevate ourselves through these education programs, then we can support creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, everything which is part of it. So let's hope, and probably all of us are working towards that direction. So let's make more awareness and support the programs for building a good nation.
Perfect, perfect. So this session turned out to be a treasure trove of wisdom from three incredible people who are working for the progress of science, technology, or let's say STEM, STEAM, and STREAM. And now I extend heartfelt thanks to all the guest panelists for joining us today, for extending their time and expertise to all of us, to all our audiences joining in live from different parts of our nation and the world. Thank you, Yogi sir, Pradnya ma'am, and Yashraj sir. It was an honor to host you for us. And to all the audiences, if you wish to learn more about the advancement of science and STEM, then please keep following the pages of CIVOM, STEMplify, and the pages and the profiles of all our guest speakers here. And meet you in the next session where we'll have many more amazing insights on a new topic. Thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you among us. Happy National Science Day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you,